This art movement's probably responsible for anthropology and travel bloggers. The art style called Orientalism was the 19th century desire to depict the Orient, or what we now call the Middle East. It's worth noting that Asia, Africa, and Europe have always been interconnected. The Phoenicians, for example, were a powerhouse in the ancient world and were North African. Jesus is from the Middle East, and the three kings were often depicted as people with different ethnicities. But in the 1800s, the Europeans were well into their colonial project and were looking at North Africa as an important place, both to control, but also as a place where they could put in an access between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. And they had this strong belief that their better ideals of government and science could improve the life of these people who just take drugs and have harems of women. And a lot of what they created in these paintings were sort of like telephone. They saw some things like the aesthetics and the tile work, but missed other things. So for example, they became obsessed with depicting mosques, often showing them in great detail, including people worshiping, but saw it as an inherently immoral society. Now, many Europeans traveled, particularly through North Africa, and were fascinated by the idea of harem, remembering that many of the people who traveled were certainly aware of brothels in Europe. So they started making up these complete fantasies of what harems were, imagining basically a brothel crossed with like an anthropology store. Basically, they're doing what travel bloggers do today. They're exoticizing it and making it aesthetic for their vision of it, really not caring what those people actually do or think. The exoticism and beauty of the Middle East then became very quickly combined with advertising and products, from whiskey to perfume. And throughout the 20th century, those people who were a little bit more discerning, more aesthetic, liked something that had the patterns and colors of the Middle East. It long had done away with the idea of the harem or the Islamic faith. It just became what we as Westerners thought was appealing. And so you get stores like Anthropology who sell things that are clearly inspired by the Middle East, but long lost the associations with it.